Greetings, everyone. It's great to be with you and learning with you again. Our presentation today is entitled The 5 Stages of Mystical Unfoldment. By way of introduction, I can mention that in the January 1965 issue of the Rosicrucian Digest, there was a highly insightful and inspiring article by Past Imperator Ralph M entitled Mysticism in the Modern World. Part of that article discussed the 5 phases of the mystical life. We'll follow up and expand on the discussion on those phases or stages. First, to prepare ourselves for our discussion, we'll have a period of meditation, as is our practice. I think you'll see before you now an inspiring work of art. It's entitled A Celebration of Poetry. As you can see, it's a mural, and it's by the artist Paris Stansel. It's part of the mural arts program in Philadelphia, and it was completed on October 1st, 2004. And you can see how it's integrated in with the streetscape there as you see people walking along the sidewalk just to the right. Now, by way of description of this work, as you take it in the beautiful blue sky above, integrated in harmony with its surroundings. The mural arts program was a very progressive initiative in Philadelphia starting back in the 1980s, and wanted to have something that would beautify the city or relate it to its community and honor those that have lived in Philadelphia and inspired others to a greater way of living. The great journey of life, because our presentation today has much to do with the great journey of life. Now, in this work, you'll see the great journey of the African-American poet. Beginning in Africa, you'll see the placement of 2 women on the right, strong in nature. One is pouring water on the ground as a sacred ritualistic act, and the other is playing music. They have a musical instrument in their hand. You notice the birds flying in inspiration and upliftment. This is the start of the poet's path, the great journey in life. And you'll notice that there's a narrative as you go from the right over to the left. And the trek goes through the cotton fields of America and then rises to the corner where there's blues and there's a jazz musician are playing. And the journey culminates over towards the lower left in our contemporary period with a poetry reading, inviting us as passerbys to sit in and listen. You'll notice there's actually woven into it or built it into this beautiful mosaic words from 6 poets. You'll notice in the very colorful letters here as the bird rises beside them, there's the haiku poem by celebrated poet Sonia Sanchez. The poem's entitled Walking in the Rain of Guyana. The poem is as follows. So we read the letters here. Wetsuitsi like trees, holding the day like green umbrella catching rain. And then down below here, we have another celebrated poet, Jerome Robinson's words. Can we ever forget from where we came or who we left behind? Or will we stare at barefoot babies on lost hope streets with the eyes of stone, saying to ourselves, what makes those people act the way they do? In a way, that's in our own lives to gather up a far more expansive understanding of the whole of humanity as an expression of the one soul. It's a humbling process, but it's a greatly uplifting one that we're called to by our Rosicrucian studies and uplifting work like this by the artist Paris Stansel. The photograph is by Jack Ramsdale. Now, with these inspiring thoughts in mind, let us apply our own journey to the heights of the celestial sanctum, rising up in the cosmic. So I invite you at this time, take a few looks at this work of art. It's interesting, we learned through our Rosicrucian and traditional Martinist order studies that poetry, in a way, is a form of the recollection of the original angelic language that we're drawn to return to in mystical union. All the arts have that as its highest purpose. So at this time, I invite you now to close your eyes and just enjoy the beauty of the gentle rhythm of your breath. Have your feet flat on the floor. It's my suggestion. If you're seated, palms in your laps face down. You could have your feet about 8 or 10 inches apart, connecting the temple of the body, the holy temple, with the temple of the earth. Suggest you have a right angle at your knees, spine upright. Take a moment to make sure you're comfortable. No matter how you're situated, it's good to ensure that you can breathe in an unencumbered way, because breathing is an important part of meditation and living life in harmonium. Breath places us in the present, where we need to be able to concentrate properly, to be able to relax, to be able to see things aright, to allow the master within, the divine within, for it to come forward. Just view this time as a mini retreat to get recharged. No matter what's been going on in your life today, feel a little roughed up, this is a time to be soothed, but also at the same time, there's a dual action, not only the soothing and the healing, but re-energizing, reintegrating, reframing things that seem challenging or insurmountable. Our meditative practice brings all our resources together of mind and body and soul to have breakthroughs and understanding. Embrace the challenge, have a deep satisfaction by seeing it through. And the divine within will come forward so we can correctly interpret our life situations, especially the big challenges in our life, the big opportunities that we'll talk about soon when we talk about the mystical phases of development. So just continue to enjoy the gentle rhythm of the breath, harmonizing with the great octaves of the cosmic keyboard that Rosicrucians speak of, where we live in a sea of vibrations. And we work as mystics to become more and more harmonious players of that cosmic music. This is the greatest adventure of all, these 5 phases of mystical path, their declaration of the master within. All other adventures are on the way, by the way, and development thereof. I invite you to prolong your exhalation, not only during this meditation period, during your life in general, because that'll activate the great vagus nerve, lower part of the brain, all the way down below the gut. And its wonderful actions to automatically bring about the relaxation response. And relaxation allows us to heal, no matter how well we're feeling. There's more healing or making whole to be done, and guiding us in the movement of self-mastery. And if there's a particular part of your body that's in pain or a particular stress or feeling tension, just picture yourself breathing through that part of your body or that part of your mind. That'll revitalize it and bring the vital life force to bear on it, particularly the positive polarity, the cosmic essence, if so needed. Soon we'll continue our journey, ascending to the heights of the celestial sanctum, following the Rosicrucian booklet, Liber 777. We'll give you various resources referenced during this presentation, in the group chat towards the end of the presentation when Karen pastes them there. For now, let's just continue our meditation. In a way, we've helped purify ourselves through these breaths, particularly the prolonged exhalation. Now we'll begin the second phase of our meditation. We'll rise to the heights of the celestial sanctum and cosmic attunement. Let's apply the law of purification further through the following prayer and invocation. May the divine essence of the cosmic infuse my being and cleanse me of all impurities of mind and body, that I may enter the celestial sanctum and attune in pureness and in worthiness. So mote it be. Now, fratres and sorors and participants, I invite you to use your imagination and all your inner psychic faculties to picture yourself rising up from the room and home you are, rising up from your room right over your home or dwelling or building where you are. Keep rising up and see the neighborhood or geographic area around and enjoy this ascent. Use great inner spiritual force at this time. Later we'll surrender when we reach the heights of the celestial sanctum to continue our attunement with the cosmic. But use the inner divine forces, your imagination, and the psychic faculties to keep rising up over the city or their town or area where you are. Look down and see the system and order there. The streets, the layout, the highways, people going about their business. And rise up higher again and see your province or state and take in the great weather systems. The light from the moon or the sun is applicable. The landforms like deserts or high hills, mountains, rivers, their tributaries, the seashore, the lakeshore, whatever is applicable to your geographic area, and keep rising up and take in now your entire great nation or country. And rise up higher again and take in your entire continent. And now the entire hemisphere you dwell, whether it's the northern or southern hemisphere. And see the beautiful blue jewel of the earth and the great spiraling weather systems and other weather systems. And the motions of the earth about its axis. Or the great music and harmony of the cosmos. See the earth rotate about its north and south pole axis. See the beautiful blue jewel and look up and see the great fiery ball of the sun as we rise higher and higher, going faster and faster, way beyond the speed of light as we transcend space and time. And use all your senses, but also the inner psychic senses to take in all the richness, the smells, the sounds, what you hear psychically and physically as we rise up and see the great beauty of it all. The huge planet of Jupiter, the great rings of Saturn, smaller planets such as Venus, Mars, and Mercury. And see the body of Pluto and all its nitrogen flows. And let's keep going past asteroids as we rise up past other stellar phenomena, stars of various sorts, binary stars, supernovae with their tremendous bursts of energy, inspiring us to use great energy in our rise. Sense the presence of black holes balancing the universe, just as we lie balanced within ourselves between our inner and outer natures. And keep rising up past myriad stars and the great music of the cosmos, and sense our even greater home, the Milky Way galaxy and its great spiraling arms, and pass by nebulae and other planets and rogue planets. See the great beauty of it all, work of the co-creator. Just as painters and artists musicians on earth work to imitate the great vibrations of the cosmos and the inspiring music, a harmony of the spheres, the great vantage points and works of the co-creator. We as co-creators work to imitate it. Sense that as we continue to rise up right out of the Milky Way galaxy now, and look back at it and see its great spiraling arms, and note how things are in orbits, not only within our body, the electrons and protons, but how the planets orbit around the sun. The Earth rotates around its axis, the moon rotates around our Earth. Take in now other galaxies, some spiraling in other forms as we rise higher and higher, increasingly sense the tremendous vastness. The vastness inspires us to sense even more the infinite plane where the cosmic mind resides. As we rise higher and higher, by the law of correspondence, we'll go deeper and deeper within ourselves and sense even more our identification with the divine within and the cosmic mind guiding us and being our true nature. And as we rise higher and higher, we see now not only myriad stars and galaxies, but large collections of galaxies revolving about our local cluster of galaxies. And as we rise out beyond our cluster of galaxy, we see other clusters and even superclusters of galaxies as referred to by astronomers and astrophysicists. And sense now the presence not only of myriad stars, nebulae, galaxies, clusters of galaxies, but myriad superclusters of galaxies. As we go faster and faster, way beyond the speed of light. Enjoy the exhilaration of this ascent as we go higher and higher and deeper within ourselves. And now sense the great superstructure of the cosmos, the wonderful system and order of the universe, and sense its great stupendous motion, or revolving about the cosmic axis spoken of since ancient times by mystics and philosophers. Sense how the entire universe is revolving. It's a beautiful, wondrous action. Cosmic axis mirrors us as a microcosm with our spine. Everything that revolves about us within our inner system and our spine. So too in the macrocosm as we take it in its entirety. As you sense the presence of the great cosmic axis, zoom in at tremendous speed towards its midpoint, enjoying the beauty and great harmony of the spheres. As you come towards that midpoint, slow up and look about you and see the great order through all your senses, physical and psychic. Sense what the Rosicrucians refer to as the cosmic, all the natural and spiritual laws that work around us and within us, and the universal intelligence back of the cosmos, giving rise to and helping create what we're seeing before us. Now, following the instructions of the book at Liber 777, I invite you now to visualize your own personal celestial sanctum. It may be a built sacred structure like a cathedral or a basilica or a stupa or gurdwara or a mandir or a synagogue or the grand temple of the Rosicrucian Order at Rosicrucian Park, San Jose, California, or some other sacred temple known to yourself. Or maybe some inspiring place in nature like a sacred grove or by a seashore or lakeshore. Seeing the waves come in, suggestive of the great vibrations of the universe. Or a high hill or mountain vantage point, taking in its expansive view, suggestive of the cosmic sense, the consciousness of the cosmos. Fill in the sights and sounds, both physically and psychically, in your sacred space, your personal celestial sanctum. You may wish to picture incense there, and as it rises, it raises the vibrations within us. Maybe beautiful symbolism, such as in stained glass windows depicting Rosicrucian and mystical laws and principles that you know and have learned or will be learning. You may wish to be seated and picture there a sacred ritual or convocation going, possibly conducted by the Imperator of the Rosicrucian Order. And sense the presence of the seekers on this teleconference call, and I suggest to you other seekers throughout the earth and the cosmos, visible and invisible masters, all attuning at the heights of the celestial sanctum with the cosmic. Fill in the sights and sounds, and when you're ready, release it and dwell for a period now in silence. If you find your mind wandering, just lovingly and gently bring it back to the gentle rhythm of your breath. Dwelling in the deep silence at the center of your nature, at the center of the cosmos. With each incoming breath, experience the increasing presence of the divine within, the master within. With each outgoing breath, feel the relaxation response and the deep calmness of what Rosicrucians refer to as peace profound. Just feel whatever there is to feel. Meditation is a profound act of non-avoidance, nothing being swept under the carpet. Just continue to enjoy the presence of the divine within, our true nature and guide in life. As we dwell in the heights of the celestial sanctum, feel your mind expanding to be one with the cosmic mind, encompassing the entire cosmic, expanding out with each breath. To surrender to the divine within, being one with the cosmic mind. To let go. Now, as we continue to dwell seeing the presence of the divine within our true nature, and one with the cosmic mind. Let us undertake a further spiritual operation of the work and worship of the Rosicrucian Order Amwork. I invite you to participate as a member of the Silent Council in conjunction with the Council of Solace, to radiate love and well-being all those who've petitioned the Grand Lodge, the Rosicrucian Order Amwork, for guidance and healing, and radiate love and well-being to all those you know who are needing of guidance and healing, and all those sentient beings throughout the cosmos who are in need of guidance and healing. Let the love and well-being flow out from deep within you, like a great light from a searchlight going out from you, or a great inner sun. Let the divine within, let it flow out from you, directed to all those in need, all those who've petitioned. Let the master within and divine within assist in this flow of love and well-being. As an act of service and humanitarianism, let it flow. Feel the exhilaration of the flow. At a certain point, I think you'll find that you'll no longer need to make any conscious effort for the flow to continue, radiating love and well-being to all in need. And when that occurs, just continue to dwell on the divine within, one with the cosmic mind, as the healing forces of nature flow through you. Now soon we'll formally close our work as a Silent Council in conjunction with the Council of Solace, but we'll continue our meditation. I invite you to say with me now as we close this period of metaphysical aid, assured that it will continue from deep within the recesses of our being as a way of life and part of our mission in life. If it pleases the cosmic, it is done. So mote it be. And let us continue to dwell for a while longer at the heights of the celestial sanctum, being recharged, rejuvenated, reintegrated, at one with the one. Realizing our true self. Bringing this experience all more back to our daily lives. Now, fratres and sorors and participants, let us descend from the heights of the celestial sanctum, but before doing so, let us invoke the law of gratitude. Express gratitude to all those who have taught us well, to all those who have loved us, to all those who have assisted us to be on the mystical path of maturation of the human being. Having expressed our gratitude, increased our cosmic attunement, and by doing so, let us begin our descent from the heights of the celestial sanctum, taking this well-being and deeper understanding with us to emulate in our lives. Let us zoom past the superclusters of galaxies, and all the myriad stellar phenomena, the great webs connecting the galaxies, past clusters of galaxies and nebulae. See in the distance the great supercluster where we dwell, and enter into it. See the myriad clusters of galaxies rotating about it, and zoom towards the cluster that is our home. As we come into it, can be in awe again of all the galaxies and stellar phenomena and nebula. And see in the distance the great spiraling galaxy that is the Milky Way, and its beauty. And enter back into the Milky Way galaxy, past myriad stars, nebula, interstellar gases, comets, rogue planets and asteroids. And see way in the distance, beautiful elliptical orbits of our solar system, the great fiery ball of the sun. And homing in there, we see the beautiful blue jewel, the earth, its harmonious motions, the moon revolving about it, and come towards our hemisphere, and then our continent, and then our great nation or country, and then our province or state, and then our geographic location or city. And before we conclude this meditation, attunement with the celestial sanctum, let us again use a prayer and invocation. I invite you to say with me, may the God of my heart sanctify this attunement of self with the celestial sanctum. So mote it be. And let us continue to descend onto our neighborhood and our home, our house or building where we left off, back into the room where we left off. Feel where we're situated or seated. You may wish to stretch and open your eyes and feel yourself remade, rebuilt, rejuvenated, all the more ready to discharge the duties of the day in your mission in life as we continue our presentation. Thank you, fratres and sorors and participants. Now we'll continue our presentation on the topic of the 5 stages of mystical unfoldment. It is commonly noted by mystics that there are stages of growth or mystical unfoldment. As I mentioned 5 stages in a little while specifically, you may wish to consider which stage you're in at this moment. For each of us undergoes these stages, whether we're aware of it or not, from the time of our birth. It's like a great spiral. We keep going through these stages, moving and growing as we go through each one. Now, these stages are known as 1, the awakening, 2, purgation, 3, illumination, 4, the dark night of the soul, and 5, union. Our maturation and evolvement on the mystical path and attainment of self-mastery involve these successive stages of unfoldment. These stages occur in large overall developments in our life, as well in smaller ways, even daily in our lives. Now, some mystics and students of life have given some moderately different number and names of these phases or stages. But overall, there tends to be much similarity and agreement with these 5 phases. There are also parallels with the 7 stages of the alchemical process, such as the 7th stage of coagulation, which is similar to the 5th stage of a mystical unfoldment of union. I'll give you some references on this matter if you're inclined to it later in the presentation. We'll also note with these phases that the law of vibration is being applied, that we see ourselves rising and lowering in a symbolic way, because with the awakening, there's a great uplift. But then with the purgation period, there's a coming down to do serious work, and then we rise up again with illumination. See, in that sense, vibration permeates everything we do, including that larger life passage. In fact, we can think of our trajectory in life, or life passage, as having a waveform. As I mentioned, there's the larger pattern of the 5 phases, overarching what's going on in our life, but there's also, on a daily basis, one can feel an awakening, or can feel the dark night of the soul and challenging experiences in our life. In a way, some would see an analogy with the stock market. A stock, for example, may be generally going up in its price, but there are some times in a particular week or month where it's going down. No time to panic. It's all part of the larger motions that are going on. The general trend may be upwards. So it's true in our own life as we grow and mature. But there can be little challenges where seem to throw us off course on a daily basis. But we stay the course of the earlier awakening and illumination. Those are just small perturbations of what's going on, the great general movement we need to keep in mind. And all of humanity and all creation, life forms are undertaking this great action. Now, we also think, too, that the Rosicrucians talk about the doctrine of reincarnation. And how does that play in this? It's something that the Rosicrucians give to us as something to consider and decide for yourself if it makes sense. But if you're inclined to that doctrine, you can also see that these 5 phases continue through incarnations, and where we've left off in a particular overarching phase, we can take up in our new incarnation. Often earlier experiences of cosmic consciousness are ones that we've had in earlier illuminative experiences of a previous lifetime. Now, to describe further these phases to you, I'll talk about the first phase and go through them in their successive order. And you can think about them, how they apply in your own life. And I'll give some examples. The first phase, as I mentioned earlier, is that of awakening. Here, one is awakened to new possibilities, a higher range of vibration and energy in one's life. You can think of when you've had particularly uplifting or loving experiences. You can also think of when you discovered a new subject area, when you went to university, or something someone introduced to. In a way, that's another way that one can come into an awakening. It may mean understanding or coming into something new, or being aware of some new aspect of life. For example, when first heard about the Rosicrucian order, one may have an awakening. I remember myself, I was an undergraduate in the Faculty of Mathematics at the University of Waterloo, and I was on a payphone beside, looking down where they had nearby where they had their large mainframe computers. And speaking to a friend after I'd come back to the fall term and spoken to him for some months. And he told me about the Rosicrucian order, and I was immediately deeply struck. This struck a deep chord in me. That was an awakening. It brought back sort of that deep sense of time and memory, something within me. And I remember later that term, having an experience when I studied the Rosicrucian monographs in the Neophyte, having an experience when I was looking over one of the fields on the north side of the main campus of the University of Waterloo, and having a deep impression that there's a perfect way through life. But how did the outer self know that? It was deep and clear. It was a surety to it, far more than seeing the trees around me or the hands before me. And that's sometimes in the awakening phase, we'll have these impressions that we stay with, stay the course, follow through our weekly lessons, our practice in meditation, visualization, and metaphysical aid. There's a gradual building up that's taking place in our lives. We have those touchstone experiences, which is that experiencing that there's a perfect way through life. The conveyances of the master within are infallible. We follow through on them, we'll gather great energy and well-being from them, no matter what others have said to us. In the future, in the past, or the present, we need to follow that deep, higher standard of living, the master within. And the most beautiful way of awakening is coming into that initial, more explicit contact with the master within. Now, in that experience of awakening, it may mean in its most intense form, coming into that new influx of upliftment, just like we rose up into the cosmic together. An experience of the soul force within us. Here one can have an uplifting and exalting vision of idealism. That's very important, this idealism. Because we have to balance realism and idealism to guide ourselves in our life. The fact is, realism on one point of the triangle, idealism on the other, and we have them in a perfect blend, we'll move more and more to a self-mastery and manifestation. But an awakening can come up in various ways, small and large, on a daily basis, and also overarching in our life. Now, in the next phase, which is known as purgation, as we rose up into the heights of the celestial sanctum, we had a purging exercise of the breathing, but also prayer and invocation to that effect. Also, when we came back down to continue. Purgation is also applying the law of perfection. It's also known as a stage of self-discipline. You can use either name, purgation or self-discipline. And in this phase, one starts to change any of the foibles that one may have felt in contrast to the deep idealism that one experienced in the awakening, that new vantage point, whole new dimension of living that it came at the awakening stage. There's a contrast between what we have envisioned and what we are in our outer personality. We've got much more of a taste of the inner self, our true nature. Now we have to imbue that, let the outer self soak into that. We must adapt and change ourselves. Here, the stage of self-discipline may mean overcoming long ingrained habits that we consider unhelpful or destructive. Rosicrucians talk about changing the laws in the subconscious. We do that by, through suggestion of the subconscious, a new, healthy, life-embracing law. It replaces that. Not removing that older law just as is, but it has to be removed with a new law taking its place. Also, this stage may include nurturing of a new talent. For example, painting or the expression of art, as exemplified in the mural presentation or mural that we saw. Also, this period can mean taking up a mystical practice. Maybe when you first seriously started doing meditation, got involved with the lessons weekly of the Rosicrucians, for example. Or setting out in a journal to find out more about the spiritual side of life that we may have neglected. The central practice of meditation is an important part to continue through the awakening and self-discipline, though, so that feeling of oneness and deeper rapport with the God within, the divine, which we built through the subsequent phases. Now, the next phase is that of illumination. And you can see we're moving with great actions with like a waveform. We have this great building up with the awakening that we've had, but then we've had We've got to do a lot of work with the self-discipline purgation phase. But that awakening helps give us strength to see that through. And we keep those uplifting experiences, such as from the awakening, as our guideposts through life. The illumination, in a way, mirrors a lot the awakening. It's very enriching, like the awakening. By the contemplation and diligence of working on fulfilling one's idealism, there is an experience of great illumination. Though it may take lesser forms in our lives, in its strongest form, here one has a great and encompassing vision of the totality of things, a great influx of light and love. The life force within us is charged and revitalized with a new energy to live and express ourselves and to be of service to our fellow beings. Also, with the illumination, in smaller ways, as we come in to master a subject, we have a capacity to understand it far more, and we have a certain exhilaration of the mastery, no matter what it is in the arts and the sciences. This period is one that often we'd like to stay and dwell in. But just as we realize with the awakening, that new idealism, that new bright light that's now shone into our life like a room, we realize, see those places that one's been tripping up on. I realize why I've been having challenges, because now the room of our life is bright. You see things that need to be changed. And just like when we're tidying up our room or doing spring clean, sometimes the room will look more disturbed, more messy as we get it back into greater and greater system and order. And that's to be kept in mind with the next stage, which can seem abrupt with respect to the stage of illumination. It is that to which has been poetically referred to as the dark night of the soul. I know some of you are familiar with the writings of John of the Cross on the dark night of the soul, his commentary and his beautiful poem on that. And also on other stages of these mystical unfoldment. For John of the Cross speaks about them, Teresa of Avila speaks about them, Hugh of St. Victor speaks about them, Plotinus in his Enneads speaks about them as well. Now, in this period of the dark night of the soul, it's also known as the obscure night, but it also can be referred to as surrender, because just as we surrendered when we reach the heights of the celestial sanctum, a very constructive way to look at this dark night of the soul is not to be fearful of it, but see that it's a great period of purgation. It's an intense period of application of the law of purification. We had that beautiful uplifting experiences of the illumination of the awakening to, in part, to give us strength to go through this. We can keep returning back to this. I know there's oftentimes when we feel during the dark night of the soul, we feel cut off. You know, it's very inspiring, helpful in this regard. One of the great mystics of the Western tradition, Catherine of Siena, during a period of the dark night of the soul, came into the realization through the divine within revealing to her that she had great love for creation, but she had to actually have that love first and foremost for the divine itself. And when she had done that purification, then she came into the mystical stage after that I'll talk about shortly. Now, while this period can seem dark and difficult and rough, it is a period of adaptation and change. Something wonderful is happening. The fear of change, I realize, can be strong. And sometimes there are long ingrained habits that must change. A way of being or relationships that must be given up, or new relationships that must be undertaken, or new projects undertaken, or old projects given up. And this can be difficult. I appreciate that. Nevertheless, it is a period of adaptation, and we will be greater and stronger as a result of it. Mysticism is a process of maturing, coming into greater growth and understanding. Now, following the phase referred to as the dark night of the soul, there's a phase referred to as union or mystical union. Here, all the lessons and experiences that we have learned come together into a sense of purpose and meaning. And we have a greater sense of the whole and our purpose in life. In the union phase, there's also a more strongly established rapport with a greater consciousness of the cosmic that is within us. And in the final mystical union phase, there's an immediate rapport with the cosmic that's maintained. Now, with these phases of the union, in a way, it's a great culmination, developing of some skill or talent that you have. You've brought it to a degree to a mastery. But it also happens overarching way in our life. And as we move from the phase of mystical union, if we still have more lessons to learn in time to incarnate, we'll come back to that of the awakening. But we'll have that rapport that is kept with us and built within us. It's like building further up. Though we're circling around to the awakening phase again, we're growing in maturity. This process may look at, symbolic, as I mentioned earlier, as a spiraling, an upward motion, leading to greater and greater wisdom and understanding and ability to be of positive benefit to ourselves and others and the environment. I can also mention about this movement from the dark night of the soul to that of union, a poem. Now, it was noteworthy that in the artwork that we looked at earlier, that was a celebration of poetry. I mentioned those poems. I'll also leave this poem by an unknown Rosicrucian author that was given to me by Rosicrucian Margaret Richards in earlier years. It's entitled The Test. And it's a helpful way to see the dark night of the soul in union in a very personal way in our lives. When gloom its cloudy billows roll, threatening to sweep the soul that clings to rocks precariously, into the vast and stormy sea, then what foundation have these rocks? Can elements of life still mock and scourge the soul that would be free from the wild and surging sea? Nay, faith has risen to enfold the weary soul and vanquish doubt's fierce hold. Love's tender arms embrace and whispers gently, rest. Within dwells peace. Dost thou desire? In strength of will, release. Calm as the stillness of a moonlit night, the soul stands. Alone? Nay, not alone, but bathed in light. Now, this union phase is a great phase or period of equilibrium, what Rosicrucians refer to as harmonium, harmony in all levels of our being, sense of well-being. Associated with the dark night of the soul before the union phase is also the law of crucifixion. And the period of union will help us understand why sometimes crucifixion occurs. And there are Rosicrucian studies talk about the dark night of the soul and crucifixion that occur then. Now, crucifixion is something that can occur in small and large ways, but it's an intense application of the law of perfection. If, for example, there's some progressive thing that we're doing as a service in our lives, but we're receiving a lot of criticism, but we know deep in our conscience it's the right thing to do, that can be a form of crucifixion. There may be things in growing up in our family that we were strongly disciplined or criticized for, but actually were right things to do. That can be a crucifixion. But these things will purge us inwardly and give us strength and get all the more able to enter the mystical union phase. For then there's the law of resurrection that occurs, the rising up and strengthening, and we see why all things were necessary in our life. Also associated with this phase of mystical union is what mystics refer to as deification. It's a period of being more godlike, but not in a sense of self-aggrandizement, but as we move towards the divine, it moves towards us as this experience. Also paralleling, or is another polarity with the deification process, is that of the spiritual marriage, where we have a deep oneness of the outer nature with the one soul and the divine within. These are all beautiful ways to see the period of union. And in its final phase, there's no longer needed for incarnations. Otherwise, we move to the awakening, taking up later in life or in our next incarnation. At this time, I'll ask Karen to post the resources to the presentation in the chat, and also to attach the resources in a PDF document. So by way of conclusion, I'd like to say we have continued to explore how Rosicrucian laws and principles increase our well-being and capacity for service. Our discussion was on the 5 stages of mystical unfoldment: the awakening, purgation, illumination, dark night of the soul, and union. Our maturation and evolvement on the mystical path and development of self-mastery involve these successive stages of unfoldment. As we move individually and collectively to the mystical union stage, we fulfill the universal purpose of life. Thank you, everyone.